All right. Now, okay, just to inform you that since mid-examination is kind of, we're not taking it now. We're waiting for further instructions, but we'll be taking extra quizzes. So basically, by the end of this month, I have to take like 4 quizzes, and then later on I can take 2 more. Okay, so first one, it will be on the claim. Second one will be on APA. Then I'll be taking another essay. This essay writing will also include APA. That means you have to provide in-text citation and reference list as well. And there will be a second quiz on claim identification. So I have to take like 4 quizzes, and we'll have to try to complete them by the end of this month. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Okay, so APA is really important, as I said. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, miss.
So I'm scrolling down to page 218. There's some basic information regarding APA here. We're going to go through that, and then the rules, where the rules start, I will be giving you another handout. Yes. Okay. Yeah, this is actually 218. All right, so from here, why do we need, to follow these rules? As I mentioned, that APA stands for American Psychological Association. MLA, there's another set of rules that stands for like Modern Language Association. Anyway, we'll be following APA. Say in the future, if you write something and the publishers say that you have to follow the MLA rules, Modern Language Association, then of course you have to learn those rules. Okay, and so I think there's a booklet for that as well. Anyway, you can't learn 2 sets of rules at the same time. It's very confusing. There are many rules, as I said, that you're not supposed to memorize. You don't have to memorize. You should remember some basic ones, very basic rules, and the rest you always need to take help from the booklet and apply the rules. So APA actually originated in 1929, where scholars, they came up with all these rules. And when everyone applies the same rules, that is, it's not only about referencing, but it's also about how you should organize your writing. That means a structure of your writing. That means how the paragraphs should be, the font size, spacing, numbering, which side you should put the numbers, then indent, which whatever should be indented, then how to write the headings. So all these rules come under this APA, under these source documentation rules. So it's important that when everyone follows the same rules, then it becomes easier for the reader to understand what has been written. But if everyone had their own style of writing, then it would have been difficult to, understand the organization and maybe difficult to follow the content. That's why when something is published in a journal or a book is published, the publishers, the editors, they tell you to apply these rules so that it's systematic and easy for everyone to understand. So APA system consists of in-text citation and referencing. So referencing is at the end, and in-text citation rules is, in the body of the text. In-text citation rules are much simpler and shorter, but for referencing, it's much more detailed. So we're going to learn all of them. Now there are many rules, and it's not possible to go through all the rules one by one. So we're going to discuss some of the main rules, some basic ones and some important ones, and there are examples given as well. And the rest of the rules, you need to read them, go through them in your spare time and try to understand them. So here it says, in addition to documenting your sources, you face three main challenges when writing a social science paper that draws on written sources, that is supporting the thesis, citing your sources, avoiding plagiarism, and integrating quotations and other source materials. So there's another important element here, why you need to include the sources. So here, supporting the thesis. So when you write something, you have an idea, but remember that when you write a thesis paper, when you write a research paper, this is not a literary piece of writing. This is based on research. That means that we call it scientific writing. When we follow system, then and provide logical explanation, that's when we call it a scientific piece of writing. So when you have an idea and when you provide explanations, examples, these are not going to be something, fictional. It's not going to be something from your own imagination. When you provide logical explanation, just like, when you have written your argumentative essay, the thesis paper is also like that. When you try to provide the results and provide background information, these are not going to be made up by you. It is based on your reading, what existing research, everything that has been written by other people. You need to do a lot of reading and then rephrase what they have written, and also collect data and provide the results. And all the explanation that you give must be logical. So there has to be a backup. So this all, especially the background information, it all depends on the existing research. That means it depends on your writing, on your reading. So when you read something and borrow information, you have to provide the source documentation. So supporting the thesis, that means you have an idea, and in order to back up that idea, you have to do a lot of reading. So you need that. Then citing your sources and avoiding plagiarism. So you need to provide the source documentation, because if you don't, you borrow other people's ideas, you rewrite what has already been written by other people. And if you don't provide the source documentation, that means you are copying and pasting other people's ideas. So when you provide the source documentation, this is a very important way of avoiding plagiarism. So I think you're all familiar with what is plagiarism, and plagiarism in academia is considered a crime. So you are not allowed to plagiarize at all. So one of the ways of avoiding plagiarism is to provide the source documentation. You must mention the author's name and the year of publication in the in-text citation. And in the reference list, you have to provide not only the author's name, year of publication, but what was the name of that book or article, where it was published, all those information. So this is a way of avoiding plagiarism. Another way is you need to, as I said, that you need to paraphrase. If you want to borrow direct language from the sources, then you have to put it in quotation mark. If you don't put it in quotation mark, then you have to paraphrase or summarize what you have read. You cannot, if you borrow the exact words, it must be in quotation. If they're not in quotation, then you have to paraphrase or summarize. So these are the techniques that you should use in order to avoid plagiarism. So here, integrated quotations and other source material. So it's very, very important, you know. So once you learn the APA rules or once you become familiar with it, you will apply this, use it throughout your whole life. So that's why it's very important. So you'll be needing this for one of the quizzes. That's the extra quiz on essay, and you'll be needing it to write your research paper and also a final exam. Okay. Okay, so here, going down, citing sources, avoiding plagiarism. That's what I said. In research paper, you will be drawing on the work of other writers, and you must document their contributions by citing your sources. Sources are cited for two reasons. Okay, so here, to tell readers where your information comes from so that they can assess its reliability and, if interested, find and read the other sources, the original source, and also to give credit to the writers from whom you have borrowed words and ideas. So to borrow another writer's language ideas without proper acknowledgement is a form of dishonesty known as plagiarism. So as I said that in order to avoid plagiarism, you must provide the source documentation. So here are, why the importance. So when you provide the source documentation, especially when you borrow information, you're not going to borrow the whole paper. You only borrow chunks of ideas, say, just a little bit of idea from articles or books. Now, if the reader is interested to find out more about that article or the book, then they can do that. They can try to find the original source from the source documentation that you have provided. So when you give the reference list and the reader feels interested that they want to read more on that source, then they can try to find it by looking at the reference list that you have provided. You can go to the list and look for the original source. So that's one of the reasons. Other one is, yes, when you borrow information from other writers, you must provide, you must give credit to them because they're the ones who have published a paper, a journal article, magazine article, newspaper, or anything. Nowadays, of course, other sources are included, like it can be media. You can borrow information from news channels or YouTube, anything. Wherever you have borrowed the information from, you must provide the source documentation because you cannot steal other people's ideas and make it your own, right? So, and you have to give credit to those writers, or if it's a media, if it's something spoken, you have to give credit to them. And that's why it's important to provide the source documentation. So clear, everyone? Are you all here, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so here is some more information. Just as I said that in-text citation and reference list. So just to give you an idea about what is in-text citation reference list, this short example has been given here and we will go into details later. Okay, so citing sources. Citations are required when you quote from a source, when you summarize, or when you paraphrase a source. And when you borrow facts and ideas from a source, except for common knowledge. Now, yes, if the idea is a common knowledge that everybody knows, then you don't have to provide the source documentation. But if it's something new, something less common that people in general don't know about, definitely you have to provide the source documentation. But if it's a factual information or something very, very common that everybody knows and talks about, aware of, then you don't have to provide the source. But otherwise, we do borrow information which is not common, which some specific writer has written, definitely have to provide the source. Okay, so the American Psychological Association recommends an author date style citations. Here, very briefly, is how the author date system often works. So, author date means when we talk about the author's name, according to the APA rules, we're always referring to the last name of the authors, not the first name, but the last name. It could be a single author, it can be two authors, it could be more than two authors. Every single rule is important. And when you follow the APA rules, you'll see that every single symbol has some sort of meaning. So a symbol can be a single dot, which they call a period, could be a comma, semicolon, a dash. Then when you italicize something, when you capitalize something, everything has, there's a reason. Everything applies to the rule. They're all part of the rule. So this is something you have to remember. So last name of the author or authors, followed by year of publication. That is what we provide in the in-text citation. And in the reference list, there's more details. Okay, so here, the source is introduced by a signal phrase that includes the last names of the authors, followed by date of publication in parentheses. Parentheses means in bracket, the normal, round bracket. Okay, so the round bracket. So remember that we're not going to use square bracket or other brackets, it's the round bracket. This is for in-text citation. Now, what is a signal phrase, you might ask? The source is introduced. When you provide in-text citation, there are two ways of starting the sentence. One is introducing a signal phrase. Signal phrase means something like according to so-and-so, or say Smith and Jones are the writers, two writers, Smith and Jones, last name of two authors. So according to Smith and Jones, and then in bracket, you can provide the year of publication, and then you can paraphrase or summarize or quote. Okay, before I move on, what is the difference between summarizing something and paraphrasing something? We need to understand the difference. What is the difference? When do we paraphrase? What is called some paraphrase and what is summarization? Anyone?
Summarizing is just getting the ideas together into small words, like the 5% of the whole text. And paraphrasing is like it's just rewriting the sentence in using different words. That's all, I guess.
Yes, that's true. So when you summarize something, you're shortening the original one. So yeah, as I said, very short. So it can be 5%, or if it's a whole, if you're summarizing even a book, it could be like 1/3 of the original, something like that. So summarizing is a just shorter version, much more shorter version of the original. Whereas paraphrasing is like rephrasing the original. So you are rewriting the original in your own words. So you avoid the writer's language and you rewrite in your own language. You have to, excuse me, you have to change the grammatical rules and restructure the sentences. So when you paraphrase something, it can be shorter than the original, it can be the same length as the original, or it can be even longer than the original. So if you paraphrase a paragraph from the original, so it can be shorter, Can be same length or can be longer than the original source, original writing. So you need to apply both summarizing, paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is not easy actually. It's kind of difficult because when you rewrite in your own words, I mean, you've got to know a lot of vocabulary to make your writing effective, to paraphrase effectively. So you need to, it's not just about providing synonyms. There's some students, they do that. They provide, they change the words, provide some synonyms, but it's not that. You have to change the whole grammatical structure from the original. So, it takes a lot of practice to be good in paraphrasing. Even I struggle as well. So it needs a lot of practice. It takes time to become effective in paraphrasing. Anyway, so you need to learn to do both. Of course, quotation is easier, but you are not allowed to quote a lot. Actually, only 10% of the writing can be quotation, but the remaining 90% should be either paraphrasing or summarizing. All right, so as I said that for in-text citation, there are two ways of doing that. One of them is to provide signal phrasing. That means if you say the writer's name is Smith and Jones, you can say, according to Smith and Jones, or Smith and Jones reported that, Smith and Jones argued, Smith and Jones explained. So after their names in bracket, you provide the year of publication, and then say Smith and Jones, year of publication, explained that, argued that, according to Smith and Jones, so and so. So those are different types of signal phrases. There's actually a list given in this book. And the other one is the material being cited is followed by a page number in the parenthesis. Yes, after you have paraphrased, summarized, or quoted, at the end in bracket, you also have to provide the page number. Now, if you are quoting something, the page number is a must. If you provide, if you paraphrase, then also page number is a must. But if you summarize, then page number is not always required. Because say if you summarize a few pages and just write in one paragraph, then page number is not that much required, but you can still put the page number. So that's one of the ways. That is, after, if you use signal phrase, then after the author's last name in bracket year of publication, then after you paraphrase, summarize, or quote, at the end you provide page number. The other way is at the end of the paper, and okay, that's a reference list. The other way of providing in-text citation is you can directly quote or paraphrase or summarize. Then at the end of that sentence in bracket, you provide the author's last name, then comma, year of publication, comma, page number, and close bracket. So there are two ways of providing in-text citation. The third point here is that at the end of the paper, an alphabetized list of references gives complete publication information about the source. So this is also a must, the reference list at the end. And you have to organize in an alphabetic order based on the initial letter of the first author's last name. So especially if there are more than one author, two or more authors, then first author's last name has to be written first, and the initial, whatever it starts with, A, B, C, D, you have to organize in an alphabetic manner based on that first letter of the first author's last name. Okay, so another question is, now if there are like three authors, 3, 4 authors, even 2 authors, the first author's name is actually very important. I mean, you are not allowed to change the order of the names at all. Say there are 2 authors, and one of the first author's name starts with S, and the second author, co-author's name starts with B. Now, you are not allowed to change the order of the names. If there are 3 or 4 authors, whatever the names are, when when you read the publication, when you read the article or read the book, it has been co-authored by several authors. Whatever way the names have been written, or whatever the list is given of all the authors' names, you have to keep it that way. You cannot change the order of the names. Now, first author is very important. Why do you think it's important? The first author's last name is important. Why is it important? You should never change the order of the names. And first author is more important than the others. Why? Anyone?
Is maybe the person is the lead author of the paper?
So lead author, yes. So the first author's name comes first because he or she has put more contribution in writing that paper than the other authors. And that's why the first author's name is very important. So that's why you cannot change the name, order of the names at all. So you need to remember that. All right? So it is, yeah. Okay, so here there's an example of what is in-text citation and the reference list. In-text citation, this is an example. Okay, noting that apes' brains are similar to those of our human ancestors, Leakey and Lewin, 1994, you can see. So Leakey and Lewin are the last name of these two authors. Then year of publication is given in bracket. Okay, argued that in apes' brain, then there's a quotation given. So when it's quotation mark given, then these lines have been directly taken from the original source. So when quotation is written, the cognitive foundations on which human language could be built are already present. Close quotation mark, then in bracket, page number is given, page 244. Now, since there's only one page, that's why just a single P dot given. If there were more than one page, then you have to write PP dot, say 244 to 245. So 244 dash 245. If that is only if the information has been taken from more than one page, then you have to write PP, right? But since it's a single page, it's just a single P. So this is, here you can see a signal phrase has been used because it says, noting that apes' brains are similar to those of our human ancestor. This is the writer's original writing. Then he borrows information from the source which has been written by Leakey and Lewin. So Leakey and Lewin argued that is the signal phrase. Argued that in apes' brains, then quotation, page number. So directly after the author's name in bracket, year of publication has been given. Now, another way of providing in-text citation is like the writer could have directly quoted. He or she could have written like, noting that apes' brains are similar to those of our human ancestors. Okay, and then in direct quotation, the cognitive foundations on which human language could be built are already present. So after that, direct quotation, and then at the end, in bracket, you can also write Leakey and Lewin, comma, 1992, comma, P244, then 244, and then close bracket, full stop. So that's another way. So you have a choice. And you must always provide variation in your writing. So in some cases, you can provide in-text citation in this way using signal phrase, and other times you can directly quote, paraphrase, summarize, and at the end of the sentence, provide the source information in bracket. Okay, so that's an example of in-text citation. You see that it's very limited information. Last name of the authors, followed by year of publication, page number, finish. Now here is the example of the reference list. So this in-text citation, this is a short form. Then in the reference list, you have to provide more details. Now this is a book. So this information is taken from a book. So you can see in the reference list, it's not only the last name of the authors given, but initial of the first name as well. If a writer has a middle name, then you have to also provide the initial of the middle name as well, first name, middle name, and only the last name you write in full. So here you can say leaky, comma, R. So R is the first name of the author, and then dot, comma, and then and. Now you can see in the reference list, this is a short form of and given, not A and D. Right. So that's a rule as well. That's an APA rule as well. When do you write A and D in word form, and when do you use this short form of and? This is also part of the APA rule, and you cannot make a mistake there. Okay, so last name of the second author, Lewin, and also the first name also starts with R. Okay, then dot, then in bracket, year of publication, dot, and then you can see the name of the book, italicized, Origins Reconsidered in Search of What Makes Us Human. And then New York is the place of publication, and Doubleday is the name of the publisher. So this is a rule for books. If the information is taken from a book. Now this is a printed book, because if it was an online book, then you have to provide the online source as well. That means the website address. But since no website address is given here, so this tells us this is a printed book. Okay, so, and why do I know that it's a book? Because it follows the rules. When it's a book, then you have to italicize the name of the book. Now this has been, of course, typed. That's why it's italicized. So when you type, you italicize. But when it's handwritten, what do you do? When it's handwritten, then you cannot italicize, so you underline the name of the original book. Okay, and then place of publication is given, and then the name of the publisher. Now, this is, I think I did check the 7th version, and they have changed the rule here. I don't think they asked for I think the publisher's place of publication, as far as I can remember. Anyway, we'll go through that. So there has been slight change. In fact, some of the rules have been simplified. So we will check the 7th version. And there has been some additional rules that have been added to the 7th version as well. So you can see the difference between in-text citation and the reference list. In-text citation is very simple. Last name of the author or authors, followed by your publication, page number. But in the reference list, page number for books are not required, but you do have to provide page number of journal articles, magazine articles. It's not the page number of the page where you have quoted or paraphrased, but the page number of the whole article. So if an article is like 10 pages, then the whole page number will be given. It has to be provided in the reference list, but this only goes for, as I said, articles, journal articles, magazines, newspapers. So you can see in-text citation is simple, but the reference list has a lot more information. All right. Okay, avoiding plagiarism. Now, okay, here's an example of original source and plagiarism. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Why is it plagiarized? Okay, so original source, here it says, this is taken from original source from article named Animals. On page 57, the writer is Linden, that's the last name of the author. Okay. So here the original source says, no animal has done more to renew interest in animal intelligence than a beguiling bilingual bonobo named Kanzi, who has the grammatical abilities of a 2.5-year-old child and a taste for movies about cavemen. That's the original source. Now, the second one is the plagiarized. So let's see what's wrong with it. According to Linden, 1986, so its publication is 1986, no animal has done more to renew interest in animal intelligence than a beguiling bilingual bonobo named Kanzi, who has the grammatical abilities of a 2.5-year-old child and a taste for movies about cavemen. And then page number is given, page 57. Now the author's name has been given, year of publication has been given, page number has been given. So why is this a plagiarized version? Why is this plagiarized? Can you tell me, everyone?
They used the exact words from the source, or there is no year of publication indicated.
Year of publication is given, 1986.
And there is no quotation.
Yes. So you can see that direct words have been taken from the original. And if you do that, you have to provide the quotation marks. Okay, so if it's directly from the original, you have to provide quotation because the quotation marks are missing. That's why this is a example of plagiarism. If you don't want to take the exact words, then you have to rewrite it in your own words. You have to paraphrase. So normally when you borrow, say, a single sentence or a few sentences, then you need to paraphrase, especially a single sentence should be paraphrased. If you want to summarize, then of course you can also do that, but sometimes it's difficult to summarize just a single sentence unless it's a very long sentence. If you want to summarize a few sentences or a few paragraphs, then that's easier. So most of the time you will be using paraphrasing. Okay, so you can see here, so here's the correct version given according to Linden, 1986, that in quotation mark starts here and ends here, then at the end page number is. So here is an example of paraphrasing and summarizing as I have mentioned. Now, maybe you should go through this example as well. Unacceptable boring of phrases. So as I said, that paraphrasing is not that easy. It does require a lot of practice. Here, why these are unaccepted versions. You can see the difference. So here's the original source. If the existence of a signing ape was unsettling for linguists, it was also startling news for animal behaviorists. So this line is an original, taken from original source, written by Davis, that's the last name of the author. The name of the, I think it's name of a book, Eloquent Animals, because it's italicized. Page number is taken from page 26. So that's the original source. Now let's see these examples. Why are they unacceptable boring of phrases? So paraphrasing has not been done properly. So, okay. Here it says Davis, 1976. So year of publication is given. Observe that the existence of a signing ape unsettled linguists and startled animal behaviors. Page number is given. So why is this unacceptable? Signal phrase is given. Davis observed that. That's a signal phrase. Anyone? Why is this unacceptable boring of phrases? I mean, you can see that some.
It's still in the direct voice. Like it's written in a direct voice.
Written direct, okay. So similar, are you saying that What do you mean by direct voice? Similar to the original?
Ma'am, it's like it's same to the original, but like it's not paraphrase or it's not
Sentence.
like changed or anything.
The sentence structure is so similar, right? And some of the words are also very similar, right? So Davies observed that the existence of a signing ape, so signing ape, unsettled linguist, and startled animal behavior. Yes, basically it's the same. Direct, it's too similar. It's just the same thing. That's why this is unacceptable. Okay, what about the second one then? Davis, 1976, observed that if the presence of a sign language using chimp was disturbing for scientists studying language, it was also surprising to scientists studying animal behavior. So, what's wrong with this one then? The first one we understand is just too similar, almost the same as the first. What about the second one?
It's written in passive voice.
Passive voice. What about the original one? Isn't it the same?
No, ma'am.
Isn't it the same? Look at the sentence structure. What has been done to this one? I mean, do you see that the language has been changed?
Yes, ma'am.
So what are these? I mean, they have been replaced. So what do you call them?
Rephrasing,
Rephrasing or something like.
paraphrasing.
But it is unacceptable. Still unacceptable. So, like synonyms have been used. Like when you say sign language using chimp, signing ape, signing changed to sign language, ape changed to chimp. These are synonyms. Was disturbing to scientists studying language. Linguists, they are scientists studying language. In fact, those people who study language in a scientific way are called linguists. So synonyms, kind of words have been replaced. But look at the sentence structure. Has that been changed or is it the same? Look at it very carefully.
It's same.
Same, yes. The sentence structure, the grammatical structure is the same as the original, and that is why this version is also unacceptable. So you can see that you need to not only change the language, using synonyms, but you also have to change the sentence structure. You have to change the grammatical structure and write it in your own words. So, for doing that, in order to do that, you can either shorten the language or you can make it longer than the original. That's not a problem. You can, give a more longer phrases. That is not a problem either, but not too long, of course. Okay, so to avoid plagiarism, or to avoid plagiarizing an author's language, set the source aside, write from memory, and consult the source later to check for accuracy. This strategy prevents you from being captivated by the words on the page. Yes, as I said, that it is not easy to paraphrase. So this is one strategy that you can actually apply. That means, when you read the original source, then just put it aside. Don't look at it. And then from your memory, try to rewrite in your own words. This way, you can actually avoid using direct synonyms and using direct sentence structure. So you'll be able to write in a different sentence structure. But if you have the book open, sometimes it becomes difficult to rephrase. So you should just read it, understand the concept, put it aside, put the book aside, and then write it from your own understanding. Of course, you don't want to change the meaning because you're paraphrasing, but the It should be in your own language with your own sentences. So here's an example of what can be acceptable. So Davies, 1976, observed that both linguists and animal behaviorists were taken by surprise upon learning of an ape's ability to use sign language. So the sentence structure has been changed, different wordings have been used, and that's why this is an acceptable form. So paraphrasing, you do need to do a lot of practice because it's very, very important. You'll be needing it when you write your research paper. So clear, everyone? Okay, going down. So I'm not going to go through these rules because some of them have been changed, as I said. Now here are some examples of signal phrases that you can use. A list has been given here. So this is on page 223. Can you all see this page?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so more examples of signal phrases that you can use. And of course, when you write, there should be variety in your word choices. So some verbs in signal phrases you can use. So as I said, the example given there was like, what was it? Davies observed that. You can also write Davies noted that, agreed that, admitted, argued, asserted, believed, claimed, compared. Try to use upright if you want to. He or she is comparing. Confirmed that, contended, or according to Davies. That's a common one. Denied, emphasized, insisted. All these verbs you can use in the signal phrase. Suggested that, reported. These are some common ones. Reported, claimed, agreed, argued, asserted. Right? So use them in your writing. Okay, so put this down. So clear so far, everyone?
Yes, please.
Okay. So in your book, the sixth edition is given. So don't follow that. I'm going to share the seventh one now. Okay. So it's actually the seventh edition is also new to me as well because previously we have always been using the sixth edition. So the seventh one, I think this is the latest one which everyone is using all over the world. There are new rules, even for me, it's new. But anyway, as I said that, of course, there has been some changes in some of the rules and there has been additional sources that have been added as well. Additional ones include like if you want to borrow information from YouTube, other medias because of the advanced technology. So those have been added. So you have a lot of choice. Well, but you have to follow the rules. Okay, so here's the content given, reference lists, basic rules for most sources. Now, the basic rules is what you should memorize, the basic rules. And then the rest, you always take help from the source. So basic rules for articles in academic journals. Okay, so also need to keep that in mind. And authors, there are different rules when it's a single author and more than one author. So there is a rule for 2 authors, 3 to 20 authors, more than 20 authors. So there are rules that apply. Group author, unknown author. You can see 2 or more works by the same author, 2 or more works by the same author in the same year. Then if you're borrowing information from introductions, prefaces, forwards, afterwards. I mean, especially when there's a compilation of work, like usually these type of writings, there's an editor or editors involved. So, you know, each chapter is contributed by a different author. So the book is a collection. In these types of publications, normally there'd be introductions, prefaces, forwards, things like that, which the editors usually write. And if you borrow information from those places, there's another rule that applies. But articles in periodicals, basic form, articles in printed journal, articles in electronic journal, that means the online one. Now, for your research paper, you will be borrowing information from online journals or magazines or online books, because probably if you go to the library, of course, you could have borrowed from printed. You can also borrow from printed if you have any books at home that you can use, but most of the information will be from online. So this is an important rule, that you have to provide the online address, website address. So article in a magazine, newspaper, review, books. So there's a list goes on. Okay. So you can see so many rules. So we won't be able to go through all of them. Okay, even Wikipedia article is given here. This is something new, because normally I tell students that you should not borrow directly from Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is like, it's always edited by several authors. But, normally in Wikipedia, there's a list given at the end, reference list given at the end, and that's the original source. So this is something added here, actually. All right. Try to avoid Wikipedia, actually, as much as possible. But of course, Wikipedia gives you some basic information. There is always a reference list given. You should always try to find the original source. All right, so newspaper articles, electronic, so Kindle books, so many rules you can see. Goes on, even from emails. Look, these are new things added, emails. These are the new ones. These were not in the 6th edition, like Twitter profile, Facebook post, Facebook page, Instagram, photo, video, blog post. It depends on what you are writing, what type of, what is the topic that you are writing on. So based on that, you may need to use, borrow information from these sources, or you may not. For your research paper, basically, I don't think you'll be needing all this Twitter. You'll be borrowing information from all these things, but mostly it will be like journal articles, magazines, newspapers, books, things like that. All right, so these are some of the new ones. TED Talk. I think these are like speeches, right?
Yes, miss.
Like films, videos, things like that. TV series, episode. These are new. So you can see, list just goes on and on. Okay. So and then those are for reference. Now the in-text citation rules as well. So again, the basic rules you must memorize. Simple, last name of the author or authors, year of publication, and page number. That's included for in-text citation. But for reference list, it depends on what type of source it is. Because there's a rule for books, there's a rule for articles, newspaper, magazine, journal article and magazine are similar. Newspaper, there's a little bit of difference. Then other types of sources, there are other rules that apply. But for in-text citation, the rules are simple, and it's more or less the same rule. Last name of the author followed by year of publication and page number. Same rule applies for in-text citation. But again, there are rules for short quotations, long quotations, quotations from sources without pages. Okay, so Again, there's some rules which are a little bit different from reference when it applies for two authors, work by three or more authors, unknown authors, sort of thing. Okay. And as I mentioned that APA rules is not only confined to source documentation, but it's also about paper formatting as well. So the basic rules, content, how you should write the content page, cover page, abstract, main body, referencing. There's also rules for spacing, things like that should be. Okay, if those rules are not here, main body, I think the rules should be here in the main body that requires how you should write the heading, then spacing, page number, things like that. All the rules should be here. So when you write your research paper, and of course you're going to type, there's also a rule for that. I think you should use Times New Roman, font size 12, that's the standard one. So you should also follow the APA rules for formatting paper as well, formatting your research paper as well. I'm not saying that you have to be perfect, but you should try to apply the rules as much as possible. This is definitely you're in the learning process. I don't expect something perfect, but do go through the rules and try to apply it as much as possible. And definitely for the source documentation, you must, because if you don't provide the source documentation, that is the in-text citation as well as the reference list, then it will show that you have plagiarized. And as I have mentioned before, that you will be submitting your paper in Turnitin, which is a software we'll check for plagiarism. We call similarity index. So what is the percentage of similarity of your writing with other existing writings? We accept 25% similarity. 25 is a high percentage. If you go abroad, it will be very less, like probably they accept only like 5%. But for here, we accept like 25%. If it's more than 25%, then we will be deducting marks. So in order to avoid plagiarism, you need to provide the source documentation. It's very important. Okay, so we're going to start this from the next class. So I will post this handout in the stream section. Please do save it, open it, and save it. You'll be needing it throughout this course, and you can use it for other courses as well. If you write research papers for your other other courses that you have taken, or in the future you plan to write something, it will be very handy. It's very useful. When you write your essay, normally when we tell you to use APA, it's an open book exam, because you can't memorize all the rules. There are so many rules. So definitely you can take help from this booklet and apply the rules. So the rules are given and example is given here. So we will go through some of the rules in the next class. I'll take a quiz and then we'll continue with that. After we have gone through the basic rules, some of the important ones, I will also give an exercise that we will try to do in the class. And after that, I will take the second quiz on APA. Right, so clear, everyone?
Yes.
Yes, miss.
It's like 37 pages. All right, so because I also need to revise, because some rules are new here. All right, so we will talk about this in the next class. We will start going through this. So this booklet starts with reference list first and then the in-text citation. The 6th edition in your book, that one started with in-text citation, then referencing. Anyway, the reference list is, as I said, that it's more in detail, a little more complicated, but you still need to apply the rules. Okay, so any questions?
To paraphrase, we need to use alternative words and we'll also have to change the sentence structure, right?
For paraphrasing, yes, paraphrasing.
And by changing the sentence structure, can you please give us some more example?
Paraphrasing, yeah. Right now I don't have, but I can give you later on, and we can do some practice as well. Right. So there's some in your book. I think you should go through the book, and then you'll find more examples of paraphrasing. Yeah, I'll try to give you some more examples. Right. I think I have another handout. I'll look for it, and we can check those to understand more about paraphrasing. Okay, we'll do it in the following classes.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, did you check our research proposals?
Research proposal, as some of you have actually late, so I'm just waiting for everyone. I need some time to go through it. I need at least a week. So by next week, you should get the feedback. And maybe many of you maybe have to submit a second draft. Okay, so I need a week to go through. All right, so after I approve the first draft of your research proposal, and then we'll move on to the survey questionnaire. But anyway, in between, we also have to continue these topics as well. That is, any question for the claim identification, because I will be taking a quiz in the next class. So if you have class on Tuesday 16th, I'll take a quiz then. If Tuesday is a holiday, then I will take the quiz next Sunday. So quiz will only be for, say, 20 minutes. I think you can complete writing the answers with 10 or 15 minutes and five or 10 minutes for uploading. And then we will continue with class, all right?
Okay, ma'am.
So any questions before I call out your names? Any confusion about claim identification? Remember to go through your book. It's on page 31. And I've also given, I think, a handout. We did some practice as well. So claims of fact, value, and policy. I will be taking 2 quizzes on claim because they said that at the moment we're not taking the mid, but we will be taking extra quizzes for continuous assessment. All right, so everyone please respond to your names. Khandakar Akhtar Hamid. Khandakar Akhtar Hamid.
Yes, ma'am.
Anik Bishash.
Yes, ma'am.
Marufa Jaman.
Present, Miss.
Lovely Khatun.
Present, Miss.
Faria Kadir.
Present, Miss.
Mohammed Ashraful Haq.
Present, Miss.
Zubair Ahmed.
Present, Miss.
Abu Bakr Siddiq.
Present, Miss. Miss, I was present in the last class, but I see in RDS it was absent. It is showing absent.
Showing absent. Okay, so I'll have
Yes,
to.
Miss.
Okay. Okay, I will adjust that. Okay.
Okay, Miss.
Jana.
Present, Miss.
Then Abdul Qayyum.
Present, Miss.
Tanab Asif Jaman.
Present, ma'am.
Shabab Farooq.
Present, Miss.
Rafi Rizwan. Rafi Rizwan. Ibn Sina Bhuya.
Present, ma'am.
Taslima Jahan,
Present, ma'am.
Ali Yusuf Alvi, Ali Yusuf Alvi, Abdul Mohaimin, Abdul Mohaimin, Rabsa Ryan,
Present, miss.
Rabsa Ryan.
Present, miss.
Okay. Then Abdullah Al Masud,
Yes, ma'am.
Ahmed Jubair,
Present, ma'am.
Jannatul Ferdowsi,
Present, ma'am.
Mugdhamani,
Present, ma'am.
Navid Naim, Navid Naim,
Ma'am, he
Chat
said he's
box.
present in the chat box.
Pratyasha Mahmood,
She has also given her presence in the chat box.
Ridanul Haq,
Yes, ma'am.
Sharaf Anjum Proba, Sharaf Anjum, Nasir Ali,
Ma'am, he was present, but his electricity is gone.
then Kaji Sadi Ahmed,
Present, ma'am.
Jareen Anjum Tahia,
Present, ma'am.
Faizan Mohammad Rahman,
Present, ma'am.
Sumaya Shahid,
Present, ma'am.
Mohammed Samin Ibn Amin,
Present, miss.
Mohammed Farhan Ahmed,
Present, ma'am.
Maruf Mahmood,
Present, ma'am.
Samrin Alam, Samrin Alam, Saad bin Rahman,
Present, miss.
Tehsina Haq,
Present, ma'am.
Mohammed Muhaimur Rasul,
Present, ma'am.
and Saeed Amar Mahmood.
Present, ma'am.
Okay, so let me just call out the names of those who did not respond. Rajiv is one. Sorry, Rafi is one. Then Ali Yusuf Alvi, Abdul Mohaimin. Anything in the chat section. Then Samrin Alam. Okay, so that's it. Thank you, everyone. So I'll see you in the
So,
next.
ma'am.
Yeah.
So the next quiz will be held on a Sunday next week, right?
If Tuesday is not a holiday, I'll take it on Tuesday.
The quiz will be about APA from APA.
Not APA. We haven't done it yet. We haven't completed. On claim identification that I discussed in the last class.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum.
Ma'am,
Yes.
I missed first assignment. You told me to remind.
The essay, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I'll give you a topic tonight. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
And then I'll give you like 45 minutes, and then you can submit. All right. So at night time, maybe if it's at like 9, is it okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So I'll give you a time and give you a topic. All right.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.